The opposition's new Shadow Assistant Treasury spokesperson has flagged the possibility of reinstating the original Stage 3 tax cut plan. Luke Howarth believes the coalition could reinstate Scott Morrison's original plan while keeping Labor's 16% tax rate for low-income workers. The Brisbane MP also wants the coalition to take its super home buyer scheme to the next election. The policy would allow first home buyers to invest up to 40% of their super balance to purchase their first home. That leads us quite nicely to the Deputy Opposition Leader, Sussan Ley. Sussan, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So just starting with Luke Howarth, has he opened up a window there as to what you're planning when it comes to Stage 3 tax cuts for the next election?
Luke's a great addition to the team because he is what we call a retail politician who links and understands small business, families and communities and the effect that national policy has on their worlds. So he is, as I said, a great addition, and we've said that our policy around tax will be that it will be lower, simpler, fairer. It will enshrine aspiration. It will fight bracket creep. Luke's on board with all those things. And I've spent time with him both in his electorate and across the country, and I know that he's a fight of the people that are doing it.
That's
really,
fine,
really
but is he right or is he
right
or is he wrong though when it comes to Stage 3 tax cuts? Are you going to try and keep the original plan just with the lower tax bracket in place?
Pete, I'm not going to announce our tax policy here, and you know that.
Yeah, but
I am going to say that the appointments...
Is it out of the question?
Pete, I'm not going to announce our tax policy here, but we will bring a policy that has lower, simpler, fairer taxes. And the most important thing here is that aspiration that every ordinary Australian has is something that the coalition will never stop fighting for. And that's why it's great to have Luke on the team as part of that fight.
What about...
As well as, I must say, the other appointments yesterday. Sure. We had some terrific appointments
No, I got all that, but...
including,
I mean, that was...
I just must...
Yeah. The part about Luke Howarth, I think that's the interesting point, though. What about his argument about, chipping off your super to try and buy your first home?
Well, again, we'll have policies around home ownership because we recognise that young Australians who can't afford to get into their first home are feeling pretty despairing of the approach by the Albanese government at this time, as they should, because they're facing the cost of living crisis that everyone else is, Pete, but they're also looking at how can they save for a deposit. And in some cases, it's 10, 12 years to even save for the deposit in our major cities to take that first step into home ownership. This is something the coalition takes incredibly seriously. We will look at a range of policies in this area.
Let's get to health and cost of living, because, I mean, it's just scary where this is all heading when it comes to the rising costs of health insurance premiums. So we had another rise yesterday. Does this prove, Sussan, that whoever's in charge, they're powerless against the might and sway of those huge health insurance companies?
Well, what it certainly proves, Pete, is that the government held on to this until after the Dunkley by-election. It's very clear from information from so many sources that that's exactly what happened. I think that's incredibly unfair. And I think looking at the cost of premiums going up emphasises for Australians, when you add that to the other costs that they're facing, it's a pretty heavy burden to bear. Now, private health insurance is very important. We need a strong private health system to balance a strong public health system. Not everybody can afford private health insurance. We need the public system to look after the most vulnerable and those who need help, and they need it from a strong hospital system run by state governments right now. So to have the private health insurance cost for average families going up at the rate it is, also reflecting the cost of living increase. I'm not pointing the finger at anyone here except the government. They're the ones who are responsible for a cost of living increase spiralling out of control.
Looking at the Australian, though, this morning, they've broken down the numbers. Over the last 10 years, the premiums have risen by 45%. I mean, is it out of control?
Cost of living is out of control, and if you're an average family and you're looking at these premiums,
which was, 10 years, that includes the part when you were in power.
Pete, I'm not going to defend private health insurers particularly, although they can defend themselves. They are also facing cost of living increases, nor am I going to analyse whatever happened over the last 10 years, except to say this very important point, that if the number of people taking out private health insurance falls below a critical mass, it becomes more and more unaffordable for the system as a whole, and we must have a strong private health system, private hospital system, because we have to leave the public hospital system strong too for those who need it and need it, really do struggle with affording their average health costs. So it's just one more increase for struggling Australian families. It's an insurance cost. You look at the other costs of insurance, whether it be a home insurance, flood insurance or your car insurance. People are really having difficulty paying a whole range of insurances right now.
OK, just a final one. We've got 30 seconds left. Paul Keating, though, with another pop yesterday at Mike Burgess as well as Penny Wong. Your thoughts on that, Susan, just in 30 seconds?
Won't surprise you to know that I don't agree with Paul Keating, but I think the Prime Minister and the Treasurer need to distance themselves from his remarks, particularly inappropriate. I actually think they should distance themselves from Paul Keating going forward. A couple of their backbenchers have done this, and coming in the middle of the ASEAN summit, remarks by a former Labor Prime Minister, particularly inappropriate.
OK, we have some backbenchers coming up. Be asking them about that too. Sussan Ley, good to see you. Thanks for your time.